welcome back to Tax Chats with Danielle Sherwin. Today's episode we're going to talk to the energy and resource sector. So I brought Craig Amos, who's our national lead, to learn a bit more about the sector and some of the key insights and trends that we're seeing in the sector. So Craig, did you want to maybe start us off with a little bit of an introduction into what the energy and resources sector is?
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, energy and resource sector, very important sector for Australia. Energy and resources, it's our biggest export commodity with iron ore. You're in tax, so you'd like this. The iron ore sector in particular is the biggest taxpayer in the country, the biggest corporate taxpayer across BHP, Rio Tinto, Fortescue. So it's a very important sector to our economy. One that's changed a lot over time, and when we talk about energy now, for example, the energy transition is right in that whole discussion. So the focus of this is, we've got a lot of clients in energy and resources, and so this industry focus is just to bring that together.
And what are some of the trends that you're kind of seeing? M&A is probably a really important part of that sector. I think there's been a lot of foreign investment over the last few years, particularly with that kind of growth in renewables and energy transition. So what are you kind of seeing in the as emerging trends, I guess, in that space?
If we look at capital flows, which is relevant for today, on the mining side, I think hardly a day has gone by where there hasn't been another gold M&A transaction in the paper. I've actually lost count with how many there have been. So gold has defied gravity with the way the gold price has been going. You've seen inbound transactions with the likes of Anglo Gold, Goldfields. You've seen local domestic mergers with gold. You've seen Australian companies buying on African assets. So in terms of mining, gold has really been an area where there's been significant activities. On the energy side, if we sort of narrow that to renewables being an area of focus, capital flow has probably slowed in the last couple of years into renewables. A lot of capital flowed in a few years back as we built out generation assets in wind and solar. We've had some congestion on our grid and some challenges there, but I think the next flow of capital will really be focused on that long duration utility scale battery part of the energy market, and we're already seeing some signs of that starting to come to life.
Yeah, I think I've definitely noticed a lot of M&A kind of activity. So FIRB applications is probably one that jumps to mind that we see a lot of. How are they going to be financing it? It's a really interesting kind of sector to be involved with at the moment. And yeah, it's probably one of like a very dominant industry for the Australian economy.
Well, it's interesting in that with the federal election, I think this one that's just passed, this was one of the very few elections where energy policy was probably one of the top three things that were within the politics. You had some very divergent views. You had the Liberal Party talking about nuclear. You had an energy reservation here for gas on the East Coast. You had the Labor government going long with their renewable strategy again. Now starting to talk about gas again. So it's interesting to see how the energy profile has raised. Everyone's talking about energy at the moment. It's quite good.
Yeah, I think it's also very topical of things like rare earth minerals. Australia is obviously quite rich in minerals and other types of assets like that. So it's a big part of the economy at the moment and what's going on around the world.
Well, in terms of mining, I think we spoke a bit about gold M&A, but the other one that's area you've just touched on there, Danielle, is rare earths, and I think it's almost the Trump effect really in that rare earths had significant relevance to the energy transition, particularly lithium and other elements that go into that. But in the Trump era now and the heightened geopolitical situation, you've seen all sorts of rare earths I've never even heard of now become critically in demand. I saw a diagram of an F-35 fighter plane, and there was something like 35 exotic rare earths that go into it. So security around rare earth access and processing, where we have downstream processing in the world, is really going to come into focus.
Yep.
Australia has, like most things, a significant resource of various rare earths, very little processing capability. So in terms of, again, flow of capital, it will be interesting to see if we can actually start to build out a rare earth processing capacity in Australia. I think that would be quite an interesting area to watch.
Keep tuned then.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
We'll see what happens over the next few years.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for that great insight on the sector. I think it's a really important area for Australia, and it's always developing. There's always new things just because of the way the world is. It's a global economy. Anything happens overseas impacts us in Australia as well. Thanks, Craig. They're really good insights. So I really appreciate the learnings. I always learn something when I talk to the corporate finance team. M&A is obviously a really important part of what you do and interacts quite a lot with what we deal with in tax and international tax specifically. So obviously with M&As, you're dealing a lot with intercompany financing. How are you going to fund the vehicle? Do you need to get FIRB approval? So there's a lot of focus on that from us in the international tax world at the moment. We've had recent kind of legislative changes, so it's still very topical from the ATO. Yeah, it's been really great having you around, and thank you for the insights.
My pleasure.
So thank you everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode.